You have physically met here, but it seems like you have met before. Can you tell us a bit of how you started communicating and why?
Well, I think we've been in contact maybe a few years ago, right? And we've never met. And whenever I was doing my film, people were like, "Oh, have you heard about this film?" And obviously, different countries and different places, but there is a similarity as well. So it's kind of really exciting, I think, to actually finally meet. And yeah.
It was super nice to meet actually because I've met the producer.
Yes, Flo.
Yes,
Yeah,
I met Flo in IDFA like 3 years ago. I was in the IDFA Academy and she was, I think, pitching the film, and it was awesome to see that, okay, there is another movie coming out from Libya and maybe there is something in common. And it was really nice to just meet face to face here, finally.
Rights is experienced in the two different countries.
Actually, because I didn't still had the time to see Freedom Fields.
Yeah, we didn't see each other's films
yeah,
yet.
we still didn't.
Yeah.
but it would be nice not to, because it's not a comparison, and also it's not a competition.
Yeah.
Every country has its own background, its own history, its own political, social, economical situation that's different. Especially, it's really different. Yes, it's Arab countries, but also African countries, and I hope the audience, the people around the world, would see the movies without trying to compare or trying to find something in common. Even, yes, both films are dealing with women football players trying to. In my film, they are trying to be the national women football team. I don't know in yours.
They are, and then they leave. But I think the point is that they're very different countries, and I think this is in general in the continent, in Africa, that often people just put everything together as one place, especially if they speak a similar language. And every country has its own nuance. Every struggle has its own nuance, and I think it's really important, especially in a festival like this, that you allow and you celebrate those differences, because otherwise, we might as well just make news pieces, and we're not. We're making cinema, and we're telling stories, and I think, you give yourself the time. I think both of our films took a long time to make, and that's because you want to explore nuances, and so I think it's really important to celebrate that, okay, there are similar themes, but they are very different countries with very different people, in fact. I haven't seen yours, but, people are different from one to the other. So just because a theme is similar, they're different. And I think it's exciting to explore the themes, but also exciting to see where they kind of are different, because everyone is also different, so yeah.
Maybe our Sudan or in other countries trying to participate in this project?
Well, this is one thing where I think we can allow our films to share some commonality, is that there is a global movement at the moment towards, visibility in women's sport, but also visibility of people using sport as a tool, and not it just being about football, but a tool for owning more space, of owning more involvement in society and on and off the pitch. And so I think that's something that's not just in Sudan or in Libya, it's something that's globally. You look in Afghanistan or you look in America, they just kind of sued their federation. So, there's a big movement happening, and with the Women's World Cup coming up and more visibility on it than ever before, I think it's a really exciting time, I think, for women's sport. Yeah.
I think for Sudan it's a bit more complicated because the FIFA and the Federation of Football in Sudan have been in contact since 1998, and there should be development funds for the women football players in Sudan, and they didn't receive any since then. So for my film and for the women football team in Sudan, there is excitement, but also there is kind of questioning what's happening what's going on through the Federation of Football and through FIFA. And what's the plan for Sudan? They will continue sending funds to the Federation of Football in Sudan only for the male teams, and for the female teams, they are outcast and they are ignored. So I believe, I hope, if my film is doing anything in the world, it's just to knock doors and to ask questions and to try to reach out for the people in charge, like what's going on with the women football team in Sudan, and hope the World Cup in France this year would raise more awareness and more interest of what's going for the women football team. I hope Sudan will get a national team for women. They've been playing football now for almost 14 years. So, yeah, it's a bit critical, but also with lots of hopes.
Narrative, what is happening in your country, is that your intention with this?
Do you want to? Yeah, please. I mean, right now in Libya, the conflict's been going on for years, but a new war has just started in Tripoli, and so again, Libya is in the news, but it's the same images you always see. It's militias, it's violence, and I think it's important to humanize what's going on behind this, what's going on behind what we see in the media, because there are people that are trying to live and breathe and exist, and it's really difficult, but they're trying, and you don't always want to be defined by the conflict that's in your country. I mean, you have to work through it, but you don't want it to define you. And I think, there are so many stories and people doing things that, go beyond that. And I think cinema can be a really powerful tool for allowing people to connect in a way that's kind of a bit more human. Yeah, I hope.
I think Africa has been has some cliche images since very many long years, and that's because of history of colonizations and history of new imperialism, etc. But I think it's not back in the history. It's still happening till today. So we are still facing the same mindset, the same white philosophy about Africa, that this continent is poor, that this continent has no resources, and it's vice versa. And it's not really. It's actually the opposite. But the voices from Africa would never have the chance to tell their stories and their history in their own way, because we don't have actually in the big industry, we don't have the same system, and we are still, the gap is really huge between Africa and Europe or North America or the rest of the world. So I believe, yes, films are doing a good job, but it's still not enough, because the whole media, the whole system is selling the same ideas for very, very long years. And it's when you're trying to do when you are trying to face this reality with another image, sometimes actually you are not really welcome, because it's a big business. It's
the industry of making films is even colonial, where the power is, where the money is.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
But thanks for asking.